and welcome to YarnGasm. I'm Kristen and this is episode 239. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. And if you are a new viewer, thanks so much for checking out the podcast. This is a podcast about knitting, spinning, hand-dyeing yarn, sewing, and making all the things in Brooklyn, New York, where I'm from and I live. And as always, I'm so happy that you're taking some time out of your busy day to chat about those things with me. And yeah, so I'm gonna pop on the screen really quickly where you can follow me on social media. I'm most active on Instagram, on Ravelry, I'm Voolenvine there, and pretty much everywhere else on the web. And as always, the best way to get in touch with me is via email, which is my email address is contact@voolenvineyarns.com. And if you haven't already, please hop on over to Ravelry and join the YarnGasm Ravelry group. It's the place to be if you want to partake in all of our awesome knit-alongs, our make-alongs, and just general chatter about the podcast and sharing your projects and the like. So welcome to the podcast. It is Friday. I'm a day late because I've just been dyeing yarn like a madwoman, because if you have been following the podcast or my Instagram feed, you know I'm in deep dye mode prep for my trunk show coming up at Do You Knit in Westfield, New Jersey, and I'm super excited for it. It's the final countdown, counting down the days until I get to do the trunk show, and you guys, as always, I'm so excited to be doing a trunk show there because it's always a lot of fun. And speaking of which, Karen Posniak, who owns Do You Knit, it's out in Westfield, New Jersey, she just started doing a podcast. So yay, they have the, I think it's called the Yarn Pimp podcast or Yarn Pimp show or something. I'll pop it down in the down bar. But yeah, she started podcasting with Danielle, who is Gemma Darling, I think, yeah, Gemma Darling on she also has a podcast, I believe it's called Gemma Darling Daily. But anyway, I'll post all of this stuff in the show notes, which you can find over at www.yarngasmpodcast.com, along with everything else that I chat about in the podcast. But yeah, so happy and excited for them. It's a really fun show. Definitely check it out if you want to keep up to date or in the loop with what K-Paws and Danielle are up to. And the shop itself, because there's always something fun going on there. So anyway, just a little plug there. But anyway, so that's pretty much the only announcement I have for you guys this week. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, so just FYI, heads up, I'm not going to be having a shop update this week or next week because, again, trunk show. So, but whatever doesn't sell at the trunk show will be going into the shop that following Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So keep an eye out on the website. I will, and my Instagram feed, because I'll post about that, like if there is anything left over, which I'm guessing there will be some stuff left over because I am dying quite a bit. But anyway, enough rambling. Let's get on to what's off my needles. Okay guys, so I have a finished object this week and I am super stoked about it. You're probably tired of me talking about it and not showing it because it is a shawl design that I designed, and I've been talking about it, and it's been taking up pretty much, I've been very monogamous. I've been knitting monogamously on it for the most part, with a couple breaks here and there, but it is done and I am smitten with how this turned out, you guys. But it's my shawl design and here it is. It is a pie shawl, so I have this folded over, but yeah, it's a pie shawl. I cannot remember the last time I knit a pie shawl. I think it was Jared Flood's, it's like a pie something, I don't know, I can't remember the name of it. I'll pop it down in the down bar, but that was the last time I knit a pie shawl. And then I made an attempt at the even star shawl, and then two attempts at that, and then I never finished it. But for some reason I just got it in my head that I wanted to design a pie shawl, and here it is. And I really want, because I'm on such a brioche knitting kick, I wanted to combine brioche and lace knitting, and I thought, how cool would it be to have a pie shawl with brioche in it? And I looked it up on Ravelry and I didn't see any pie shawls with brioche in it, and I was just like, I have to make this happen because it's just, I have to make it happen. So I made it happen, and here it is, and I cannot be more excited to have it done off the needles. It's currently being test knit. I have a wonderful handful of test knitters that are excited for it, and as soon as I posted about it on Instagram, I got a lot of great feedback about it. So thank you so much, everybody, for all your awesome compliments. I'm, again, very happy with the way it turned out and cannot wait to publish it. So as I mentioned, it's being test knit right now, and I'm hoping to get get it published by August 1st. I'll see where, I will definitely keep you updated as far as the publishing date, but that's my goal. So yeah, here it is, and I guess let me talk about it. The yarn is my hand-dyed yarn, Voolenvine yarns, on my new Vo base, which is 100% superwash merino, single ply fingering. So for the first colorway, colorway A, I used Coven, and then I slowly graduated into Grim, which is a shaded black, and then Paranormal, which I don't know if you can see, but it's just like a very light gray, neon green, like subtle purple black speckles. So but yeah, it just kind of alternates between brioche and like a simple intuitive lace pattern. And then at the end, I don't know why this makes me so happy, but at the end I did I did an I-cord bind off, and I'm not gonna lie, it was a labor of love, but honestly, so worth it. I really love the effect that it has. It just brings everything together and adds like this really bold contrast edging, and I don't know, it really makes my heart sing. Of course, in the pattern, if you're not down with binding off over 1,000, I-cord binding off over 1,000 stitches, I totally feel you on that, and I'm going to include you know, directions for just a regular bind off. So you know, it's up to you. It'll be totally up to you. And I used, while I used 3 different colorways, I designed the pattern with the intention of making it very flexible. So each skein was 400 yards, and I want to say 366 meters. I could be wrong, but I believe it's 366 meters each skein. So it uses up each entire skein. So if you do plan on knitting this, make sure you have at least 400 yards per skein, or you know, 365 meters per skein, 100 grams each. So because it will use all that yarn up. So here you can actually see, like, this section of brioche in the actual pattern, I shorten it ever so slightly just because I was playing a game of yarn chicken at the bottom of this, so I had to accommodate for that. And plus, I think, me personally, I think this section of brioche is just a smidge too long, so I shortened it ever so slightly. But yeah, that's the only change I made to, otherwise it's the same. When you knit this pattern, it's gonna be completely the same. But what else did I wanna say? What was I talking about? Yeah, so, but anyway, as I was saying, while I did use 3 separate colorways for this, I designed it with the intention of, you know, using some leftover yarn from another project where, you know, there are several projects out there where you knit the entire pattern, and then you're left with a significant amount of yarn left over. And I figured, okay, this would be a great pattern to incorporate those leftover yards into. So you can have fun. You can use 3 colorways, you can use 2 colorways, you can use 4, 5, 6, however many you want. Have fun. Brioche, I think, definitely lets you do that because it's so versatile and fun to knit once you get the gist of it. So yay! And I decided to call it Oracle. That's the name of it. Yeah, I don't know, it just stuck out as a really cool, you know, it's a circle pie shawl Oracle. I don't know, it just kind of, it has like a very celestial feel to it. So anyway, I really enjoy wearing it as a capelet. It just has like a really cool, and if you wear it with a black dress, this kind of looks like a collar if I'm wearing it with a black dress in the photos that I took. But anyway, I thought it was really cool. And a pie shawl folded over like this and worn like this keeps you really warm, I'm finding. Maybe because it's been really hot out, and wearing it like this is just not a good idea. But anyway, it's a little cooler out today. So anyway, enough about this design. Very happy it's off the needles. I can now have fun and knit on other things and, you know, actually get some stuff done because yeah, I finished my, in the back, I finished my snow melt shawl, I finished this shawl, and now I really want to get my eyeball shawl off the needles, which I'll talk about in the next segment, what's still on my needles. So yes, my eyeball shawl, which in hindsight should have been finished and by this point, because it is a really simple pattern. It's just pure, it started out as a circular pie shawl cast on, and then it's just been pure garter stitch with increases here and there. And yeah, I've been making a lot of progress on it ever since I finished my shawl design. So here we go, eyeball shawl, and you guys are probably so sick of hearing me talk about it, but I'm still working on it, and hopefully I will have it done soon. But skinny dipping yarns for the pupil and the iris. So here we have space pants, and then we have olives, and then for the sclera, the white part of the eye, I am using La Bien Aimée in her Gateway Purple colorway. So I finished, as I mentioned last week, I finished one side. So as predicted, yeah, the white of the eye for the eyeball shawl eats up a lot of yarn, and I actually lost the second ball of Gateway Purple, La Bien Aimée. It's around here somewhere. I just have to go on a little hunt, scavenger hunt for it, but it is around. But I've just been knitting from one ball, and it's fine. I'm happy with the way it's turning out. The colorways I'm finding are very consistent. So I don't know if you can see that, but it's just, I am so in love with the way these colorways are knitting up together. This is definitely going to be one of my favorite shawls that I wear when it gets cooler out, or when it's cooler. So yeah, and the pattern, if you are not familiar, is by Stephen West. It's a Stephen West pattern, and you guys, it is so fun. I'm having a blast knitting this, and as complicated as it looks, it's a super potato chip intuitive knit. It's awesome. And yeah, it is fun. It is fun. At the end of the day, it's just such a fun knit, and I'm knitting it as part of the Keep Knittin' Kit and Cal, hosted by Becky of the Stringing It Together podcast, and Hannah of I always want to say Corner of Craft, but that's just her Instagram name. Her podcast is actually called the Crafty Chat podcast, which is CRAFTTEA. So clever, Hannah. But yeah, I always refer to it as the Corner of Craft podcast, but apparently I've been wrong the entire time. So it's the Crafty Chat podcast, and Corner of Craft is Hannah's Instagram handle. So anyway, now that I've clarified that, yeah, they are co-hosting a Stephen West along. So yeah, knit any Stephen West pattern. They were accepting, I think by now, well, the knit along is going until July 1st, so you still have time, I guess. But anyway, when they kicked off the knit along, they were allowing whips, works in progress, and mine was already on the needle, so I'm like, hell yeah, sign me up. So here we are, and hopefully I will have enough time to finish this. And I'm seeing a little tangle here that I have to work out, but anyway, knitter probs. So yeah, that's where I am with this project. Yeah, really loving it, really enjoying it. Cast on an eyeball shawl. Okay, so before I go on to what's still on my needles, I just want to put a disclaimer out there. If I scratch my nose throughout this entire episode, I apologize. I don't know what it is. It must be allergies, but the last couple of times I've recorded, my nose has just been acting up. Like, I have to itch it every couple of minutes because, I don't know, it must be the fibers whenever I hold them up to my face. I can't do that. I have to just not put yarn up to my face while I'm recording, otherwise I'm gonna get a case of the itchies. But anyway, I have another cast on, and I cast these on immediately after I finished my, let me see, where are we? My apple blossom socks. So those were finished last week. I showed those off. But I really had been wanting to cast on a pair of paranormal socks out of my hand-dyed yarn. Just to, I guess, have as a sample initially for the trunk show, but also for my box of socks, because I am lagging. I am so behind on the box of socks. I think by maybe 1.5 months. I don't know. We'll see. But you know, while I am working on a sock blank, I'm not really enjoying knitting from the sock blank as much, and I really just wanted to knit a plain vanilla stockinette sock. So I cast on some Paranormal, which is on my footsie base, which is a BFL nylon blend. Favorite sock base to knit with. And I have my little narwhal from Nina, who's Ine and the host of This Old Knit podcast, and it just makes me so happy. And yeah, it puts a stupid smile on my face every time I see that little narwhal go around. It's awesome. I love it, Nina. Thank you. But yeah, Paranormal, and then for the contrasting heels and cuffs and toes, I'm using Grimm, also on my footsie base and my hand-dyed yarn. So, and as always, I'm using my choice of sock needles, Hi Sharps, US 1.5, 2.5 millimeter needles, and knitting them concurrently. So finished the leg on one, and then now I'm knitting the leg on the other, which I cast on at a bar last night. like you do. Eric, I will talk more about it in Blather, but Eric from Sticks Plus Twine was in town. He has an event at Nitty City today. I don't know if I'm gonna make it over, but I'm glad that I caught him yesterday. We all got together for dinner. It was really fun, and after dinner we all just kind of hung out at this, I don't know, I want to say it was good when we, I don't know, I'm totally rambling, but the first, we had gone, another time he was in town, we had gone, we went to this bar across the street from the restaurant we ate at, and it was a fun place. It wasn't crowded, it was nice, we had a nice kind of private knitting space in the back. This time around, same day of the week, it was just mobbed, and the service was terrible, and it was dark, and we didn't last there very long, but we were all kind of hanging out, and I decided to whip out my sock and knit on it. So yeah, anyway, I digress, and I'm starting to knit on the podcast, which is very rare, but yeah, I should probably bring out my next whip. One more row, just one more row. I promise, I'll get the whip. I will get the whip just after this one more row. Just one more row, you guys. Okay, I lied. I don't have any more whips to share with you this week. I do have other projects that I have on the needles, but I have not put a dent in them. My Damyaka Lopa, which I am, it's a cardigan by Pinay Guri on Ravelry, and I'm co-hosting it as a knit-along with Ellie from the from Skein Knits podcast. She's taking I just want to mention that she is taking a little bit of a hiatus from recording, but we are still co-hosting the knit along together. But in the meantime, I am kind of moderating the knit along until she is ready to podcast again. So if any of you have any questions, just earburn me or tag me on Ravelry if you have any questions regarding the knit along. But it's going to be a fun and epic and flexible knit along. There's no set deadline so far. We're just kind of, you know, letting everyone get their feet wet and gather their materials and get started, because it's a color work cardigan. So lots of work is going to be put into it. But yeah, just a little heads up. In the meantime, if you have any questions, just you know, ping me on Ravelry and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Something I do want to share with you though, which is kind of exciting, and I'm surprised I've never shared this with you on the podcast before, but I mentioned from time to time I do talk about how when I was younger, when I was like 6 or, you know, super young, I had gone, spent a couple summers in Obernheim, Germany, because I didn't want to go to camp. My mom basically said, well, if you don't want to go to camp, you're going to Germany with your grandmother and your aunt. So I'm like, sold, you know, I'll go to Germany, whatever. And every time that I would go, we would go to stay in Obernheim, Germany, to visit my great-grandmother, my grandmother and my aunt's mom, and you know, her family, my great-grandmother's son, so my grandmother's brother and his wife were living in the same house as my great-grandmother. So yeah, I would spend a couple summers there, and I just have these memories of my great-grandmother sitting in the corner, knitting on socks. She was a voracious sock knitter. That's my fondest memory of her, is just sitting in the corner knitting away on socks, and she would crank them out. But unfortunately, she passed away, I want to say when I was like 10, maybe a little younger, I don't know, but she passed away when she was 90. So it wouldn't be until I was 16 when unfortunately my great-grandmother had passed away when I was 10. A couple years later, my grandmother's brother, my uncle, had passed away also. He unfortunately fell ill and sadly passed away, but his wife is still to this day lives in the house. But a couple years later, when I was 16, we decided to go visit our aunt in Germany, and she's still, you know, she's still in the same house. And when we stayed, we stayed in the same floor that my great-grandmother was living on. So we had the top floor to ourselves while we were staying there, and my aunt still lived on the first floor. So long story short, when I was 16, I had already caught the knitting bug. I spotted a kit in Barnes & Noble, a bookshop, and I taught myself to knit. And yeah, I was all about knitting at that time. And so when we went there, I kind of had this idea in my head. Like, I remember where my great-grandmother used to keep all of her knitting supplies, but I was kind of too embarrassed to ask my aunt where it was. But I remembered where she used to keep it. So one night I snuck into my great-grandmother's bedroom and found the yarn and her knitting needles, and grabbed a couple of skeins, you know, just what, you know, whatever looked good, or, you know, whatever. And thankfully the moths surprisingly had not gotten to it. I think my aunt did a good job of preserving it and like zipping it up and everything. And I brought it back into our bedroom, and it was late, we were watching some TV, and I was knitting, and all of a sudden a knock comes on the door, and you know, she didn't even wait, she just knocked and came right in. My aunt was there, and then for some reason I just felt so embarrassed, like, that I would go into my great-grandmother's bedroom and take this yarn and start knitting with it. But you know, as soon as she came in, I hid the yarn under the blankets. This is such a crazy story. And my aunt's like, what are you hiding under there? Like, what is that? And then I was like, I pulled it out. I was like, oh, it's great. It's Oma's yarn. And, you know, I said, do you mind if I, you know, knit with it, or, you know, take it? And she's like, and of course this is, to put it delicate, German sentimentality, whatever you want to call it. In German, my aunt said, you know, well, she has no use for it anymore, to put it bluntly. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, I will give it a good home. And I did. I still have this yarn, to, you know, after this long epic story that I told you, I still have the yarn. I have not knit with it, and I've been keeping it in this little zippy bag. So I thought I would take it out. Hopefully the moths have not gotten to it yet, but I just cannot bring myself to knit with it, because it is so special. And yeah, this yarn is probably as old as I am, maybe a little younger, I don't know. But yeah, why is this all tangled? Yeah, okay. And I'm not sure what kind of yarn this is, but it's I want to say it's a 3-ply. I would almost liken it to Regia yarn. And I don't know, it just feels like very lanolin-y, woolly, and there's definitely some nylon content in here, I think. But I have this really nice blue, and then I have like 2 other skeins in here. This really cool rainbow one. It's this one. This one's really fun. So this one. And then this really nice, oh, I actually have 4 in here. And they seem to be in good shape, you know? It's being held together really well. So yay! Talk about preserving yarn. So yeah, this really cool red barber pole kind of one. And you know, just create like some really fun marled socks, and a purple one, kind of like a periwinkle. So yeah, I don't know, I probably should knit with them, otherwise they're just gonna stay, you know, skeined up, balled up. And I mean, they're in good shape. I'm trying my best to preserve this, but I don't know, it's like it's yarn, it wants to be worked with, and I'm sure my Oma, my great-grandmother, would want me to use it, and I don't know. Yeah, so it's just super special yarn to me, and I can't really bring myself to knit anything with it other than just preserve it. And I don't know, what do you think? Should I knit with it? Should I knit a pair of socks with this yarn, or keep them balled up and hidden away in my closet? Because I don't think that's a good way to, yeah, I don't know. What should I do? I'm confused. Anyway, I thought that would be fun to share with you guys, and I hope you enjoyed that. But yeah, enough rambling and the like. Let's move on to stash acquisitions. All right, so I've been a little naughty. I did treat myself to some yarn last week, but if you watch the podcast, you know I mentioned Squirrel Pie Productions a couple times on the podcast. It's one of my new favorite podcasts to watch, hosted by Tommy. Hi, Tommy. And yeah, if you're not familiar, Tommy has just started dyeing yarn, and she opened up her Etsy shop recently, so congratulations. And of course, I love supporting friends who dye yarn, and you know, and other makers. And she posted this one skein, and I immediately fell in love with it. The name, the color, everything just spoke to me, and it had to be mine. So I got a skein of Fortune Teller. Let me see. Well, it's Moonstone Dye Works. So here's her logo, Moonstone Dye Works. And this is her Stellina sock base, 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and 5% Stellina. And the colorway is perfect. It's called Fortune Teller. And this yarn just, I love it. 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 So Tommy, this is an awesome dye job, and I can't wait to be a pair of socks. So this was my treat yourself for last week. So yeah, definitely check out her Etsy shop. She's got a lot of fun colorways in it, and yay, congrats again, Tommy. Yay. So anyway, stash acquisition of the week, and I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, that's about it as far as acquisitions go and the like. So I'm gonna move along to sewing. So as for the sewing segment, I don't have a finished garment to share with you this week, but I am wearing my lady skater dress, my first incarnation of it, using some awesome bat toile, as I like to call it. And you guys, favorite pattern ever of the summer. This is my uniform. I have about 3 different versions of this dress, and I want to sew so many more. So yeah, definitely a pattern favorite. Definitely check it out. It's super simple. If you have jersey fabric, but yeah, very fitted and has like a flouncy, not a flouncy, but just like an A-line short skirt at the bottom. So love it, love it, love it. Highly recommend the pattern. But as I mentioned last week, I am partaking in Brooklyn Knit Folk. Jacqueline, who hosts the Brooklyn Knit Folk podcast, she's hosting a quilt along. And I decided, kind of late to the game, but I decided to hop on the bandwagon and join, because I had been wanting to get back into quilting. So I'm like, what better, you know, now I have an excuse. You know, she's hosting a quilt along, now's the time to learn, so let's just dive right in. So I showed off some pre-cut, what were they? Yeah, they were 5-inch pre-cuts, so a charm pack came with 5-inch square pre-cut fabric, 42 squares, and I decided to start small and knit a baby size quilt. So I pieced together, I laid out everything, I followed, she has a video tutorial on YouTube, so if you are interested in joining along, I will post a link to the tutorial in the show notes, so you can check it out yourselves. But it's everything, you know, is very, she explains everything she explains everything so well, spells out everything in layman's terms, and just a really awesome, to the point tutorial if you are interested in learning how to make a quilt. So I laid out everything, all my squares, got them in the order that I wanted them to be, and then I organized them, I stacked them into piles, and then sewed everything in it took me about maybe an hour. I apologize, my street's very noisy. It took me about maybe an hour to stitch all the squares together, so which is super quick, I think. So this makes for like a really fun, quick project and gift, I want to say. So here we go. And it's awesome. I had so much fun putting this together. So yeah, as you can see, I have all the squares sewed together, and I have my batting. So I just got some simple, like a crib size quilt batting, and then I used a bed sheet, an old bed sheet that we had just in the closet. It doesn't fit our bed anymore. We kind of have it for guests, but I want to get new guest bed sheets anyway. So I took an old sheet, and then I'm using that for the backing, because again, this is my first quilt that I'm actually putting together, so I don't mind using some, you know, old bedsheet fabric that we have in our closet, and it's working really well. And I have to get more basting spray or sticky spray to kind of merge the layers together. So, but during my first foray into quilting, which didn't really go over very well, I invested in these quilt safety pins. So they are exactly like safety pins. They look like safety pins, but they have a little dip to them. So when you go to insert the safety pin through all 3 layers of fabric, it kind of forks in, making it easy to kind of grab all those layers together. So really handy. Highly recommend them if you are interested in quilting and you don't want to use the spray. So I'm using that to kind of hold all the layers together. I pinned them sporadically throughout, so just kind of space them evenly. So the only thing left that I have to do is actually quilt the quilt. I'm going to stitch in the ditch, meaning that I'm going to stitch through all the seams from the top, and then after that I just have to bind it. So I actually have to run out and get fabric to make the binding. So I have those little metal things that create like binding strips. So yeah, it's surprisingly super quick and simple to do. It's just a matter of finding time to sit down and complete all the steps. But so far, I would say if I had all the time in the world, no other commitments, no other things that I had to get done during the day, I could probably bang this out in maybe a day and a half. again, it's a baby size quilt, so yeah. And I think I will gift this to Bella because she's my baby and she's very deserving of a quilt, I think. So yeah, and I think, yeah, she has been enjoying kind of like laying down on it and stuff, so I think she's claimed it. Yeah, so alright, so I think that is it for sewing. Hoping to get more sewing done this weekend because as I mentioned, I have been dyeing yarn like a mad woman. I think I dyed over 200 skeins this week, and now I'm gonna have even more. I'm gonna dye some more today and then some more next week, obviously, so I'm gonna have significant inventory for the trunk show. But hoping to take a little bit of a break this weekend and yeah, like I said, get some sewing and knitting done for myself, and I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, so but yeah, as I mentioned, there will be no shop update this week or the following week, and whatever doesn't sell at the trunk show will be going into the trunk show, into my online shop that following Monday, June 26th at 10 a.m. Eastern time. But I will keep you updated if there will be an update, if I have anything to put in the shop. I'm sure there will be plenty of stuff left over to go in the shop. But after that, a regular shop update. I haven't quite decided on what date I want to have my next regular shop update, because the following weekend is 4th of July weekend, Independence Day weekend, I guess, in the States. So Dennis and I will be going out of town, and you know, we're gonna go up to the Cape, and I'm not sure when exactly we're gonna return. So yeah, it's still a little bit TBD, but stay tuned. I will definitely keep you posted as soon as I know. So with that said, I'm gonna move along to Blether, where I chat about what's been going on in my life, should you care to stick around and hear about it. But yeah, so as far as what's been going on in my life, as I mentioned, I got together with some knitting friends last night. We went to Eastwick, which I talked about last week. I kind of raved on about burrata, which is a really awesome cheese dish, which I highly recommend you should get, especially if you're at Eastwick, because they do make a very awesome burrata. So yeah, we all got together and everyone ordered burrata. It was beautiful, and we proceeded to fall into a food coma while knitting, and it was awesome. So anyway, Eric from Sticks Plus Twine was in town, and it was really great to see him because I feel like the last time I saw him was in Edinburgh, which is crazy. As I mentioned, it's always surreal seeing knitter friends in different parts of the world. It's very surreal. Anyway, it was great to see him. It was great to see my knitting friends again, and yeah, just kind of have a night out. So much. This weekend I am relaxing. As I mentioned, I'm just taking it easy, not really doing anything but crafting, because I just kind of need the time. But as far as what I've been watching, I'm still watching Twin Peaks. I'm on the 2nd season, making my way through that, and there's also Handmaid's Tale, which I still have to catch up on this week's episode. Really enjoying that episode. Again, both those series are not for children. They're not child friendly, so yeah, I would just warn against that if you are thinking about watching and you have wee ones around you. But they are really good and worth it. Yeah, so anyway, there's that. And then also I started listening to another audiobook. It's called The Witch's Daughter, and it's by Paula Braxton. So really enjoying that. It's very dark. It kind of, you know, flashes back between future and past, you know, during the witch trials and whatnot. So it's really fascinating and creepy and spooky, and just, yeah, it's awesome. Highly recommend it. Again, not for children. There are kind of some suggestive scenes in there, or you know, paragraphs, pages. It's adult literature, if you will, some of it. But otherwise, it's just been a really entertaining listen as I dye and work in the kitchen. It makes time fly really fast. Yeah, and it's funny because, like, while I'm dyeing yarn, if it's a colorway that I've been dyeing over and over and over again, like, I kind of go on autopilot. So I kind of know what I'm doing, and I can kind of check it. Like, not that I'm totally checking out. I'm concentrating on what I'm doing, but, you know, I can pay attention to other things going on in the background as I'm dyeing. So it's nice to kind of have that in the background while I'm working. So yeah. And then I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, that is pretty much it for this week. I feel like there is something else going on. It's Friday. I'm very happy about that. So yeah, I have a lot of work that I have to get done, so I might just wrap this up. But I do want to cast on a new shawl this weekend. I don't know what. I don't know what. I have to find some yarn that speaks to me, and then go from there. But anyway, I'm rambling. So that said, happy knitting, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Ba-da-da.